The Republicans were supposed to be debating one another. They ended up debating the media. This is the CitizenLink Report. Hi, I'm Kim Troby. Well, the Republican presidential candidates were in Boulder, Colorado, of all places, for the latest presidential debate. The topic was supposed to focus on money issues, but as usual, things took a strange turn.
And I'm not blaming these folks, but I guess I could.
The Democrats have the ultimate super PAC. It's called the mainstream media.
You find a Democrat that's for cutting taxes, cutting spending $10, I'll give them a warm kiss.
We have $19 trillion in debt. We have people out of work. We have ISIS and Al-Qaeda attacking us. And we're talking about fantasy football.
Everybody said it was going to be 3 hours, 3.5, including them. And in about 2 minutes, I renegotiated it down to 2 hours.
CitizenLink's Paul Weber is on the road, but I had a chance to chat with him about his thoughts on the whole event. Well, Paul, despite all of the antics last night, there was some talk about the economy, which was the topic of the debate, and specifically about less federal government and more state sovereignty. Why is that good for social issues like we follow?
Well, first of all, Kim, the debate topic was supposed to be all about the economy, and yet it seemed like there was lots of topics covered despite just the economy. But what was particularly important was all the candidates, for the most part, talked about a smaller federal government, a smaller tax burden on the family. And that's really what is of interest to us, is providing more resources for the family so that the family can be stronger. And I was glad to see that across the board, all the candidates were talking about smaller federal government, smaller tax burden upon the American citizens, and driving the federal government out of our lives and empowering the state government. And of course, CitizenLink, with a state alliance of nearly 40 state-based family policy councils, that's important to us because it drives the decision-making down to the local level where the people can be more active and engaged in both electing their officials as well as communicating with their officials about what's important to them as a family. So that was a good thing. Kim, that was a good thing coming out of last night's debate, is all the candidates strove for smaller federal government, more state involvement in sovereignty, and more state involvement in the issues that affect our constituents so much.
Now, Dr. Ben Carson has been getting a little bit of pushback because he's served on some boards of some quote-unquote gay-friendly corporations where they passed some things that were friendly to gay couples. But he stands for marriage between one man and one woman. How do you think he did last night?
I think that was an affirming answer and a good response. And even though the line of questioning to Dr. Carson last night took again sort of a snarky turn as we are hearing across the pundits, I thought he handled the question well. He came out strong, affirming marriage between one man and one woman, because he knows that what's best for our society, what's best for family, is children raised with a mother and a father in an intact home and keeping their money. So those themes were struck very well last night, and I was pleased to see that. And that's not only Dr. Carson. I know that that's true across the board in many of the candidates. Marco Rubio, certainly Ted Cruz has come out strongly for smaller government and for the preservation of the family. But as it related to the issues last night of economy, of smaller federal government, more tax dollars into the pockets of families, I thought Dr. Carson's answer was very strong and affirming.
Now, the debate took a big U-turn and started blasting the media for bias issues. Do you think conservative issues can get a fair shake in a mainstream media that is very, very biased sometimes in their reporting?
It can get a fair shake if we push for it. Here's what I mean by that. And you saw it last night in the debate. All the candidates last night started to push back on the type of questions they were being asked. They had nothing to do with the topics. They were trying to divide the candidates that were on the stage. So when we stand up and when we push back against the media and communicate the truth, I think conservative issues can get a fair shake. And I thought what was interesting last night is I believe there's somewhere around 12 million viewers, which is the largest viewership for CNBC last night. They set a new record. Why are people coming out watching that kind of debate? It's because they want to hear these issues, and they want to hear them straight from the candidates' mouths, and they want to hear it in a way that resonates with them. So I thought last night what we saw was a very good turn, if you will, against the media bias, and the truth will always prevail. And the truth came out last night, and the audience certainly affirmed the candidates in their stances, and let it be known to the media, the people that were asking the questions, the moderators, that they're not going to stand for that kind of bias. They want to hear the truth straight from the candidates' mouths, not with the interjection of commentary and bias and perspective from moderators.
Now, I want to know before I let you go, who won?
Oh my goodness! I think the American people won. I think there were certainly some standouts. I don't think there was any major movement across the candidates. Me being from Jersey, seeing Chris Christie call out the moderator on his rudeness, even in Jersey, that's called rude, and I had to chuckle at that line by Chris Christie. But certainly Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, Dr. Carson. Again, I don't see a lot of movement in the polls as a result of last night, but certainly there were some bright lights, and those four were bright lights for me last night. And Kim, I want to turn something very quickly because we didn't have a chance to spend some time talking after the Democrat debate, but there was a very important issue that I actually agree with Bernie Sanders on. Can I take a minute to talk about that?
Absolutely. I want to hear this.
Bernie Sanders raised an interesting point in that debate, and that was judicial activism. He raised the point that unelected judges at the federal level are a problem, and judicial activism is a problem for our future. I could not agree more. Now, where I disagree is that he used a case called Citizens United, which was a case that allowed dollars to be used in elections as a result of free speech. Now, if we could line up on what types of cases fall under judicial activism, like the recent marriage case in Obergefell, it's interesting that Bernie Sanders didn't point that case out, but he pointed out the election case. So I do think I agree with Bernie Sanders that judicial activism is something that we have to be paying attention to in the future. We have to be engaged as a movement at CitizenLink and our state-based family policy councils. And we have to make sure that unelected, unaccountable judges hear from the American people when they act in ways that's beyond their own authority. So I did enjoy that.
So we need to get busy before the next debate and make sure that judicial activism is on the list of questions.
I think we have a long list of things to talk about, but I was very pleased with the debate last night from this standpoint. There was not a lot of infighting across the candidates. There was good debate around the economy and the budget issues and the reasons why Americans are feeling this pinch today. I'm not going to disagree with what we're hearing out there about who won the debate. I think Marco Rubio was very strong. Ted Cruz, very strong. Dr. Ben Carson held his own. Carly Fiorina held her own. The challenge is they're not getting enough time. I think the maximum amount of time that any candidate got was about 9 or 10 minutes max. And what we need to get more time from those candidates that are prevailing in the polls to really hear about these substantive issues and get the moderators out of the way. Ask the questions and let them talk. So that's what I have to say here from South Florida.
That's great. Well, I thank you so much for taking time out. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Kim, God bless you, and I look forward to being back with the team soon.
Our thanks to Paul Weber for taking time to join us today. We love hearing from you. You can always contact us at mail@citizenlink.com. Please continue to pray for our nation and our elected officials and for the upcoming 2016 presidential election. And remember, stand tall and be heard.